Thanks, Robin. It's great to be here. Now, I actually did have a general anaesthetic about 16 hours ago, so I hope this presentation is as interesting for you guys as it will be for me. I can't guarantee that. So about PIAC, well, there you go, green button. We represent the interests of New South Wales households, particularly with respect to their energy and water supply. We're very much focused on market and regulatory solutions that deliver affordable and sustainable energy and water to all consumers, as well as the supporting measures to help disadvantaged consumers in particular to get the support they need and access to new markets where they seek to access those. And we're very much focused at the moment on solutions to a lot of the challenges that we're expecting to emerge over the next coming decades. There are 2 points that I'd really like to focus on today. One is actually how we measure things in the absence of data, so to speak, and another is the role of principles in making policy decisions and energy market reform, which is very closely related, obviously, to that first point. There was a third point which I was also going to discuss, but as I watched the Twitter stream from the hospital waiting room for yesterday's day at the conference, I saw that it was pretty well covered regarding access, data to access for third parties, so I'll focus on the others instead. Now, in a recent submission by the Australian Energy Council, which represents large generators and retailers, they noted the difficulty in measuring an absence, and I thought this was a really interesting concept. They were talking about in the reform of the wholesale energy market with respect to demand response, and that's actually the context I'd like to discuss it as well. We've been trying to understand measuring an absence in the context of our investigations into retail innovation in particular, because we've heard a lot from retailers about innovation in customer offerings, but we keep hearing from customers that they're not getting what they want. So we thought, well, what's actually going on here? So in 2018, and I actually presented this information, which I'll just touch on briefly, presented it at last year's forum. We had a mystery shopper exercise done where we called up a bunch of retailers. We didn't, we had it independently done. Called up a bunch of retailers to ask them for all sorts of products as prospective customers. Sydney-based, and the results from calling about 24 retailers were, we found some good news. If you look on the right of this, you'll see that there's a strong support for feed-in tariffs, a lot of retailers offering above the minimum feed-in tariff, which was good. Yeah, the middle sort of area indicates data access options. Don't worry about trying to understand the graph, it's all small. The middle area indicates some promise in data access, so apps and data information to help people be able to understand and manage their energy use. And the two red things that are flagged there are a dearth of smart meter options. This is 3 months or so into the national arrangements for competitive provision of smart meters, but more than a year since they had been offered in New South Wales. So it was quite concerning that we were seeing only 3 retailers committing to giving people smart meters out of 24, and no real or very little offering of demand response in particular for households. One niche retailer out of all of them actually offered that. 2 other retailers had promotional material on the internet and stuff saying that they did, but when you call them up as a customer and say, can I have this product? The answer was no, we don't have this product. So that's actually the real sort of measurement. Now, those were the key points. There are no real surprises there, but just catching up with my notes. So because of that, we decided to actually do something about this. So we, the Public Interest Advocacy Centre, partnered with Total Environment Centre, Australia Institute, to make a proposal to allow consumers to, with demand response providers, participate more directly in the wholesale energy market without the aid of their retailer doing demand response, just seeking to basically level the playing field so that demand response is treated equally to generation. South Australian government was very supportive and developed their own rule change which leads in a similar direction to ours. Until that point, energy retailers would often tell us, no, it's too expensive to do demand response and we don't need it. But interestingly, the peak body responded to our proposal by putting in their own proposal, where they sought to pretty much preserve the existing arrangements with retailers being the gatekeepers of the wholesale market. Now, following all that, we decided this year to redo the same study and see what sort of results we got, because we've heard a lot from retailers doing more stuff that's innovative, and we knew that there were some demand response trials have actually been done. So we thought, if we go back to the retail market and say, across the innovation board, if we ask them the same questions, what do we get? Now, here are the results from this year. There are a lot of surprises. Most of them are actually quite pleasant and one's not. I'll just go straight to a comparison between year 18 and 19. So what you're looking at here, 2018 is the orange bars, 2019 is the yellow bars. And I'll go right to left. Still strong support for feed-in tariffs. Some really promising development. Retailers have copped a real bashing about smart meters, especially from me. They have really improved a lot, though, in their offering. We found that 15 of the retailers said that they could offer smart meters in a timely way. Said they would. Obviously, we can't test this, but let's take it on face value. It's a really strong improvement compared to the 3 last year. Last year, when we did the study, more than half of retailers, when they were asked for a smart meter, said, oh, you'll have to go and ask your distributor for one. And that was even after distributors stopped providing smart meters. Really good improvement too in options for bill payment. Now all retailers pretty much offering different bill payment opportunities, which is a fantastic way to help for consumers to help manage their manage their energy use. But over on the end here, this is the demand response result. In spite of retailers over the last year telling us how much they're doing demand response and all of this, if you call retailers up as a consumer and say, I want to do demand response, there's still only one retailer in New South Wales who will offer you that as a household energy consumer. Now, you might say, okay, but surely all the focus on demand response is quite recent, so let's give them enough time. Well, actually, it's not that recent at all. It's been around since the advent of the national energy market. The PERA review in 2002, 17 years ago, 5 years before the iPhone was invented, proposed that we have a wholesale demand response in the energy market. Subsequently, there are all these other things which you'd think would be triggers for retailers to get into it. The establishment of the market itself. Market price caps being set to $5,000 a megawatt hour, and then following that, periods of high demand forecasts leading to a lot of investment in new generation, and price caps being then ratcheted up to $10,000 a megawatt hour. You would think all of those things would have been triggers in that first decade, but no. Then in the second decade, the AMC in its power of choice reviews proposes a wholesale demand response mechanism. Market price caps ratcheted up further, $12,500 an hour, and climbing. They're now over $14,000 an hour, and we're seeing them hit that. Big blackout in South Australia, which wouldn't have been avoided with demand response, but it's thrown a real lens, it's thrown a spotlight on the system. Demand response doing a really good job in ancillary service and other markets. And I've been given the stop, so I'm really going to be quick. Can I have a minute? Finkel, AMC, ACCC, AMO, Arena, pretty much everyone and their dog and their cat for cat people saying we need a demand response mechanism in the wholesale market. All of these things have given enough focus. I think it's fair to say this isn't just me grizzling. I mean, it is me grizzling, but the point is it's also highlighting that this is measuring an absence. This is data. The lack of provision of this service that the market needs, the customers want, is actual data that we can use as evidence that we need to reform this particular space. My final point. The problem with getting any mechanism up for demand response or any change of its type is that we don't have data. Now, I actually do love data. It's fantastic. Actually, I should say they're fantastic. I love data so much that I continually, if I'll use the right pronoun, it's a plural, but anyway. I've had a data-rich career, and I think data is really good. Now I'm very lucky I've got other people who can do the computer stuff, because I don't really like computers a great deal. But reforms that open up competition to new parties in particular are vulnerable to this same problem, that they're characterised by a lack of data. So we need to stick to principles. Principles like the long-term interest of consumers, even if it comes at the expense of the short-term inconvenience of incumbent businesses. Principles like consumer choice. The Power of Choice review wasn't meant to be about choice for retailers. It was actually about choice for consumers. But it certainly hasn't gone that way. There are a stack of other principles, but I'm out of time, so I won't list them. I'll just make the point that if we don't stick to our principles in the energy market, the risk is that we're going to consign our markets to much the same fate as Weldon's lost hiker here, while our source of sustenance goes unconsumed right in front of our eyes. Thanks.